dedicated capable research vehicle. India basically now what depends on other countries, especially Russia. Parliamentary Committee has recently recommended to establishment of a post called as Polar Ambassador. The climate of India, and it also has resources. This critical minerals we basically use in our renewable energy. Any changes in Arctic in these regions. Hi guys, welcome to Believer Science Academy. So recently, Parliamentary Committee has recently recommended to establishment of a post called as Polar Ambassador. A senior officer will be make suring all the activities of especially in polar regions. Now when it comes to polar region, we are already talking about only about Arctic polar, okay, Arctic regions. Now now in this particular video, we'll understand what is the role of this and why it has been established and why India is interested in Arctic regions. Okay, so this we'll understand in this particular video. Okay, so let's start this. So first we'll understand why India need basically this polar ambassador. Now if you see these poles, okay, you can see numerous European countries around it and some of the Asian countries also, like part of Russia also. So this is where your complete Arctic Ocean is there. Now in this Arctic Ocean, so mainly why India is interested, basically because of one main important point is because this Arctic region will affect the climate with climate of what? Climate of India also. Okay, this will affect the climate of India, and it also has resources in this, and it also has trade routes. Okay, so in this three regards, when it comes to India, why India is interested in Arctics, these are the three main reasons why India is interested in this particular region. Okay, so we'll move forward and we'll understand the difference between Arctic and Antarctic. Now Arctic, it is in North Pole and Antarctic is in South Pole. Arctic is mainly covered of ocean cover. Now here Antarctic is of mainly land mass with thick ice sheets. Okay, and now ocean, it is basically surrounded by various continents. Like if you see here, you can see various continents and various countries have been surrounding. However, in Arctic, this is Arctic, and in here in Antarctic, it is basically land surrounded by ocean. Okay, it is indigenous people are available here, and there is no indigenous people. Now, parts of fall within the territory of Arctic state, it is only governed by a treaty. Okay, now it is in 66 degree north latitude and 60 degree south latitude. So this is basically what a basic idea of what is Arctic and what is Antarctic. Now we have to understood the difference. Now we'll understand. Okay, this is what we have read. Now here we'll understand why from Arctic to Indian monsoon. So how it is related. Now we'll understand how Arctic region. So basically Arctic is influencing the Indian region. Now there is a jet stream which is subpolar jet stream. Okay, whenever if there is any changes in Arctic in these regions, so it will also affect the jet streams, and this jet streams plays a very important role in monsoon also, like we have already studied in our geography classes. Okay, so this is one of the main important thing you have to understand, that is atmospheric shifting, first wind. Now this altering the jet stream and circulation pattern of wind. Now this circulation pattern of particular winds will automatically affects the monsoon. Okay, so whether you see some of the monsoons during the monsoon, now El Nino will be there. Okay, so that is wholly from Pacific point of view, Pacific Ocean. Okay, that is one part of where monsoon is getting affected. Now there is another part which is coming because of this Arctic regions. So okay, so in this we also Arctic region is very, very important when it comes to Indian monsoon. Okay, now Arctic warming. Now here what is it? The ice which is there in Arctic is slowly getting melted. Okay, now this melting will automatically raise sea levels in India. Yes, sea levels. If you see these ports, Indian coastlines, islands, ports and coastal cities are very vulnerable for this, and even the Arctic changes influence the Himalayan glaciers, which we also called as third pole. Okay, so these are the effects why India is very interested. Okay, and India is very keen about this particular region. Okay. Now, after this socio-economic impact, I told you, since it is affecting the monsoon, so monsoon will also affect, because of this socio-economic problems will also be created because of this particular thing. Okay. Now, after this, if you see melting ice redrawing the global geography. So, what happens whenever there is melting of ice, a new sea routes will be established. Okay, northern sea route. Okay, now this will be much more shorter for India. Now, India is basically using Suez Canal in order to reach Europe. Okay, it is using Suez Canal. Now, if there is melting, now India can access these areas very easily. Now, there is a saying that India can access Europe within 2 weeks. Okay, within 2 weeks we can basically access the center or the major parts of the Europe. Okay, this is one of the helpfulness. Now, okay. Now, after this, energy security. Now, numerous oils and natural gases are basically there in this particular region. Okay, and many countries, especially US, China, okay, and Russia, are more interested to this. And if you see, China has already mentioned that it is one of the bordering state of Arctic Ocean. This is what to this extent what China has gone. Okay, so China has. So, this is of the energy security part. One is critical minerals. Now, this critical minerals we basically use in our renewable energy products and EV vehicles, mobile phones. So, everything we need these critical minerals, and critical minerals are also there in those regions. Okay, and geopolitics. Now, US and Russia are Arctic states. China's polar Silk Route expansion, Arctic presence. So, this is basically because of these areas, because of these three reasons, more countries are interested toward Arctic. So, that is one of the reasons why India is pushing towards creating a new ambassador. Now, India's journey is in 1920, India signed a original signature of Selward Treaty as a part of British Empire. Now, this is very, very important. Now, after this, what happened is in 2008, Himadri, a research station was established there, okay, in Himadri, and in 2013, India became observer of Arctic Council, okay, and this Arctic Council. And after this, what happened is in 2022, India released its Arctic policy, science driven, where it basically told about its broad planning regarding this in this particular region. Okay, so this is basically what India's journey towards our Arctic regions. Okay, now if you see this, policy exists, however, we still lack it capability of now if you see fragmented administration. Now, when it comes to Arctic, many ministries were basically involved in this. So, numerous ministries are involved in, example, Ministry of Climate and Ministry of Climate Change. Okay, that is also there. Ministry of Commerce is also involved. Okay, Ministry of Finance are also involved. So, like this basic numerous ministries are involved in this particular region. As a result, are handled by across different ministries and divisions without centralized coordination. This is one of the weakness, okay, of this, and no polar ambassador, which means it lacks what dedicated senior diplomat, which means basically a senior diplomat is not involved in this particular region, and no dedicated capable research vehicle. India basically now what depends on other countries, especially Russia, and it basically rents out these kinds of vessels are basically rent in order to provide exploration. This is where we are lacking. And next is limited funding, heavy science approach. Now climate research not sufficiently integrated with trade. Okay, we are only discussing about climate, but we are lacking our clarity regarding this energy, trade and maritime resource also. Okay. Now, implementation gap in India's 2022 policy has not yet been fully converted into practicability. Okay. Now, this policy has not come into reality. So that is the reason the Parliamentary Committee has recommended to establish a particular ambassador called as Polar Ambassador. Now, this Polar Ambassador, if you see Polar Ambassador, what he'll do? He'll coordinate with different ministries, Ministry of Science and Tech, okay, Ministry of Climate Change, Ministry of Shipping, Ministry of Energy. Now, this particular ambassador will coordinate with all the ministries and provide and acts as a coordinating agent between all the ministries and executing all the plans. Okay, now development, polar governance. Okay, so he'll do all the coordination part. Okay, now responsible is climatic dimensions. That is one of the main important point, and another one is economic dimensions. Here, the new routes, okay, routes, energies, and critical minerals offer strategic opportunities for India. Okay, and if you see this institutional dimensions, a polar ambassador and a dedicated mechanism, what it would unify India's fragmented polar policies and global south. India must advocate this for equitable and rule-based polar governance on behalf of developing countries. So these are the opportunities which India have in establishing this particular ambassadors. Okay, I hope this topic was very useful for you, and I hope you have understood what is the importance of Arctic for, especially for India, and what are its interests there. Okay, I hope this was very informative for you. Thank you so much.